Hello everybody, my name is Abby. Welcome to the video. Overwatch is evolving, and for the better or for the worse is completely up to you. So I want to talk about my perspective and then we can discuss in the comments what you guys think. But please, I would implore that you guys hear me out. There is no surprise that in the next season, season 18, season 18 and season 20 are the ones that were being hyped up like crazy. Okay. And I'm not gonna lie, season 18 is looking very damn exciting. I'm not going to lie. I think this might be the time where I'm going to play Overwatch a lot. Not only are we getting the armor bug fixes that make Kaiju watch times like a horrible nightmare to deal with, but we're getting, well, outright blatant power creep, and you know, 90% of it, of that power creep, is pretty relative to one another. That's always something that I've requested, that if you are going to go down the power creep route, please make it fair to everybody else. Don't make it so that, oh well, Sojourn gets her breakpoints back so she can one-shot everybody, but Genji has acrobatics and you can every now and then use a triple jump that does absolutely nothing for you in the neutral, right? And clearly this is not the direction that they wanted to go. They also want more competitive perks in the game, and their idea of competitive perks is outright blatantly giving you power creep, right? Mercy literally zooms around at the speed of light now. Genji can quite literally reset all his dashes. The list can seriously go on, right? I can talk about all the perks, but we talked about that in the last video that I did. So when it comes to power creep, my perspective has always been is I want it to be like relative. At the very least, 90% of the cast should be like getting perks and ideas that make sense, that help their kit out, right? However, there's some stuff in the perks that is way too gimmicky, and it's just sad. For example, Hanzo gets the scatter arrow perk on his major, which is just too much of a gimmick for you to ever use. Junkrat gets a very awkward major that just is a detriment to his playstyle some of the times. And then Torbjorn gets this really weird minor perk where he can just pull out the hammer and run at 20% speed. You're never picking these perks. It makes no sense. You're always going to take perks that help you with consistency and not necessarily a gimmick. So with perks aside for a second, I kind of want to talk about the other things that Overwatch is doing. Look, it's become blatantly obvious that Overwatch wants to lean into the casual player base, and I think a reason for that is they behind the scenes feel that they are losing too many casual players. Let's not get ourselves, like, it's obvious that Marvel Rivals has had an impact on Overwatch, right? And of course a lot of these things are pre-planned, and if you're a smart business, you're going to respect the fact that you have a good, like, you have good competition on the horizon, and you should start preparing for it like a year or two beforehand, in the off chance that the competition is good, so that you can combat them. And if in the off chance that the competition isn't good, you get a game that's already evolving to be even better. Now, to be fair, when I looked at Overwatch, I always looked at Overwatch as like their main selling point being that we're a really good competitive hero shooter game, and that's what I always played it for. But at the moment, it seems like Overwatch kind of doesn't want to like lean into that anymore, because some of the blatant power creep with perks is outright removing weaknesses on characters, looking at you, Wrecking Ball and Doomfist. And they're also leaning into, just like, if you look at the new hero progression system, and I'll give Overwatch kudos where it's due. I actually think Overwatch's new progression system is way better than Marvel Rivals. Now, Marvel Rivals' hero progression system is also so very good, and it's clear the community likes it. I like it in Marvel Rivals. I like getting the Lord icons and the cool kill effects. But Overwatch is not only going to give you icons and all this type of stuff as well. Your existing hero levels and the hero levels that you're going to get when you're leveling and grinding it out from now on for your characters is also going to get you loot boxes and other cosmetic items that you would spend your credits for. So you're going to get normal loot boxes, and you can also get legendary loot boxes. So I believe if you hit level 100 or level 200, you get a legendary loot box, right? So that is exciting, right? I'm not going to sit here and pretend that's not exciting. That's really damn cool. So I kind of felt like that was something that Marvel Rivals was missing, was that if the hero progression could keep going on and on and on, you should be allowed to unlock a skin or two. But in Marvel Rivals' case, they could do like a costume coin. Anyways, this video is not for Marvel Rivals. That's for another day. It's clear that, like I said, Overwatch is trying its level best to really win over new casuals, retain existing casuals, and also generate interest for just the general audience, right? Like people that are like looking at Overwatch, like, they're showcasing their Gamescom, and it's like, hey guys, look, like Stadium is our big focus. It's become really clear that they want Stadium to be the big one, right? It kind of does kind of feel like that. I'm not gonna lie, right? And we have the new Stadium game mode that's coming out. We have, I think, 2 to 3 new maps coming for it, which is really exciting. And honestly, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, Stadium has become my way to play Overwatch, right? So I'm not gonna sit here and complain. However, they're not neglecting the main game either, which I'm a big fan of, right? Like, because obviously it's 2 different teams working on it. Now, there is a neglect going to one particular game mode, and now I can say this safely because we've read through the patch notes, we've been through everything else. 6v6 as a game mode has, for 5 seasons, not gotten a single balance patch, and I think that's disappointing, and I think it's lazy, and there's no excusing that. I can praise them for every single thing that they're doing: the new stadium racing, even stadium quick play, and also like all the new perks and everything that they've done. The power creep is at the very least somewhat relative compared to before. Like, it's definitely an upgrade compared to before, but there's no denying that I think 6v6 definitely deserved its own time and attention under the sun on what people enjoy in that game mode, and kind of leaning into it instead of just putting in the game mode, forgetting about it, and moving on and saying, well, we'll tone down tanks as HP bars and increase their cooldowns and call it a day. That's just lazy. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that's not lazy. Please hire a 6v6 team that work on that game mode and try to make it a better experience. Now, turning on over back to the main game, I do have some concerns. I think Stadium Quick Play is a bit of a bad idea, simply because I think there's way too many queues in the game. This then gets worse when you realize that in Stadium Competitive mode, they're going to introduce a draft mode. For those of you that don't know, drafting mode is basically the 10 different players in that 5v5 setting will be sent into a lobby, and each team, one by one, gets to pick a character. So let's say we start with our tank. Let's say my tank picks Reinhardt. Well, then the enemy team cannot pick Reinhardt, and they must pick something else. So then they might pick Junker Queen. Then it's going to come over to me on DPS. I might pick Genji, they might pick Reaper, and then so on and so forth until the match finishes. There is basically no mirror matches being allowed. I don't think this is a good idea, because the reason draft modes work in MOBAs but it's not going to work in Overwatch is in Overwatch you don't have the same echo archetypes where the playstyle is similar. For example, to those of you that are familiar with League of Legends has characters like Akali, Yone, Yasuo that all fit in that one similar assassin, like, playstyle, right? Then on the other side, you have characters like Caitlyn, Vayne, and Ashe, where there's like, it's like a similar playstyle with little differences in the kit. But then Overwatch only has like one Freya at the moment in Stadium, right? And that's kind of my problem with the draft mode, is that I do hope the Stadium team realizes that the draft mode is just, at the moment, it's way too early to have something like this, and it's going to make a lot of people upset. In fact, when Dylan, and he's basically like the head, I believe he's one of the bosses, like, working on Stadium, he did tell everybody to have a bit of an open mind and at the very least try it out, and they can easily, like, take it out if people don't like it. That's one of the things I do like about Stadium, is that Dylan and his team are very, very quick to respond to balance patches and even system changes like this. So, I also told him in the comments, I said, I'm open-minded to trying this, Dylan, but I think it's just not possible right now. I'm not going to lie, I think I delivered it in a pretty nice way. A lot of other people were way more aggressive about it, and it does seem like, yeah, the major sentiment from the community is very, very negative. Nobody is happy. Like, I couldn't find a single comment where somebody was happy about the idea of draft mode coming to Stadium. So I think it's going to really, really mess up Stadium, and it doesn't help that the whole, like, identity of the next season is the Stadium focus, right? With all that being said, season 18, once again, like a quick summary, it brings a new hero progression system, which is really damn good. It brings a focus on how we are doing the perks from now on, and it's blatant power creep. And like I said, back in the day, I was somebody that wanted a more balanced Overwatch, right? But it's become clear that they want to overbloat the game, like, make it easier to play to some degree, etc., etc. And unfortunately, if I'm gonna have to try and enjoy this version of Overwatch, I kind of just have to make peace with it. And even though I would have liked to have a bit more of a less overly complicated and overbloated hero shooter to enjoy, I've also found enjoyment in what they are doing with the game right now. So it is what it is. That then brings me to my final point, which is the Stadium focus. I think that, Stadium is a great game mode. It still has insane potential, and some of my most fun matches in Overwatch have been on Stadium, and I'll be playing some of them in the background for you to watch right now. But I cannot deny that I think draft mode and also the quick play mode was perhaps a bad idea, because queue times are already a really, really, really massive mess. And I think that's just going to get worse next season. And if anything, it's going to damage the Stadium game mode the most. And I don't think you want to have a season where Stadium just gets so damaged that the queue times are absolutely absurd. And I'm going to talk about the problems with Stadium and why Stadium is facing some issues. There was a great video that I did watch that covered some of the major points, but because it was so because the person that made the video was a support main, they kind of overlooked the problematic points that are there in Stadium when it comes to tank and DPS. And I did comment in the video. I said the video was great, but they just didn't understand why people are not queuing DPS and tank in Stadium, because I do have some frustrations with that mode as well. We're going to talk about that in maybe tomorrow's video, but that's going to be it for this video, everybody. What do you guys think about the new direction of Overwatch? What do you think about Overwatch, over evolving itself? Do you like it? Do you dislike it? Have you made peace with it like I have? What do you think about the new perks? Let me know everything in the comment section down below. I will see you in the next one.